5 days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, starting here, ending up in Texas. Thank you, everyone who's been supporting. Thank you, Matt Lally. You are the king of support. The king of support tonight, but God bless you. Thank you, Dan D. Thank you, Pissio Cat. Thank you, Alex Morand. Thank you, Walking Mall Poet. Thank you, Trick My Squeeze. Thank you, Matthew Felsey. Thank you, Roberto Sanchez. Thank you, Matt Lally. One Slick Mama. Gabe Delaney, Lex Wisebum. Matt Lally and Gabe Delaney just going back to back there for a few minutes. That was epic. God bless you. God bless FL Space Bear. God bless the fine citizens of Maz, the Meaning Wave Autonomous Zone, a beautiful place. You can come here anytime you like, baby. Looking forward to, many things. When we get to Texas, I got to build a new studio. That'll be pretty epic. But I'll be working every day regardless, you know. Even when I get there and there's no studio, I'll still be making music every day. I'll still be broadcasting every day. Epic activities. Very powerful new album coming up. Got 4 more tracks to do on it. I got to get it done tomorrow, basically. Tomorrow's my deadline. You know, I've been batching, so basically what I'm doing tomorrow is kind of the mixing side of it. The songs are all written, they're formed, the vocals recorded, the things are edited. I'm just like pulling those final bits of magic together. Maybe a couple guitar solos type vibes. Yeah. We're gonna bring back 24 streaming radio to the channel. That's one of the first things I'm looking forward to doing when I get over there. Ooh, shouts out to the helicopters. We've got military helicopters flying by. Hi guys. What up? Oh, shouts out to my FBI guy. Hi FBI guy. Hi FBI guy. Hi FBI guy. Hi FBI guy. You always say hi to your FBI guy, you know. You want to have a good relationship with your FBI guy, and your NSA guy, your Mossad guy, your British intelligence guy, all them guys, you know. And hey, maybe they could be ladies too. Could be a lady staring at you 24 hours a day, and if so, that's lovely. That's lovely. Thank you for your service. Yeah, we got what we got. We got the instrumental album dropping at 9 p.m. PST tonight. That's 44 minutes now. 44 minutes. You got persuasive beats. We're doing it as a premiere, so you can all come hang out and get persuaded to be great, you know? Persuade yourself to be epic. Like you need any help with that, you beautiful thing. Look at you. Look at you. Yo. I'm not even messing around when I say proud of you. Yeah. Just waiting for the t-shirts to be ready so we can announce the full tour. The dates and the locations of where we're going to be. Hey, maybe you're near somewhere where we're going to be and you can come out and say hi. Wouldn't that be something, huh? Yeah. Texas, moving for the people. Maverick says, when are you in Texas and where? Tune in tomorrow. We should be able to let you know tomorrow. But I'm moving there, baby. I'm moving there. And we're setting out on Monday, and we're going to drive across the country. It's going to take 5 days. Woo! Hey, Heckett. Gosh bless. Let's have a little roll call. Why not? If you would like a shout out, I got a little system in my back end, so to speak. So she said, that shows me contributors, as in participators, people who've been in the chat. So if you want to shout out, but you haven't been in the chat, you're a bit shy, this is an opportunity for you to drop a wave emoji. Make some noise! Everybody drop them wave emojis right now, baby. The individual must be shy. He must be made to react in a way that cause you want to. The individual must be shy. He must be made to react in a way that cause you want to. You did. All them noise pylons, baby. 1, 2, 3, splash. Yo, God bless Andrew Kamarami. Are you work here? Capital. Does Bubbles. AO. EOD Army Chick. FL Space Bear. James Royer. Calais. Maria Lizak. Marshall McClure. Matt Lally. Matthew Felsey. Maverick. Michael in Seattle. Dots Bubbles. Cindy Bailey. Capital. AO. Calais. Matt Lally. Matthew Felsey. Maverick. Michael in Seattle. Mr. Flying Unicorn. Prince Jabrikas XV. Raymond Eastman. Robert Easley. Roberto Sanchez, Sigmund Wong, Stuligo One, Terry Sanderson, Unordinary in Texas. Shouts out to Texas. What up, Val? What up, Word XP? What up, WMIV? In the place to be. What up, YouTube Hero Alex? What up, YouTube Hero Alex? What a guy. What a guy. Shouts out to everyone who's been here. I guess you should have like one more song, huh? One more song. Yeah!
Better than alcohol, man. Yeah, and the funny thing is, if you're trying to stop drinking, you need something better than alcohol. And alcohol's pretty good. So you better find something a lot better, man.
Oh.
Esteemable people do esteemable things. It's like, yeah, well, you want to figure out something that you're doing with your life that's worth not getting drunk and screwing up. You might say, well, why do people drink too much? If you like alcohol, that's a stupid question. Why do people drink too much? Well, because it's great. So why stop? You do stupid things when you're drunk.
Oh, yeah.
You hurt yourself. You compromise your health. It's really hard on the people around you. You just turn into a liar, and it screws up your life. It's like, it's pretty fun. Yeah, well, it is. But you need something better than that. And what's better isn't being straight and not making mistakes. It's like that's all prohibition in some sense. What's better is, no, you need an adventure, man. Alcohol is an interesting drug. Alcohol. It's a hell of a drug. Alcohol. It's a great drug. But the problem is, it's a great drug. No, you need an adventure, man. You need to get out there and have something to do. Something worth waking up for. That's the substitute for the addiction. Actually, the addiction is the substitute for that. Get after it. If truth be known. You gotta get after it. Alcohol really is a good drug for coping with anxiety. It makes you more extroverted and enthusiastic, more full of positive emotion. And the second thing it does is reduce anxiety. It's a great drug. But the problem is, it's a great drug for the moment. Alcohol is an interesting drug. Alcohol. It's a hell of a drug. Alcohol. It's a great drug. But the problem is, it's a great drug. Alcohol is an interesting drug because it actually doesn't make people stupid. People who are drunk will take far more risk. And you might say, well, that's because they're too stupid to understand the risk. It's like, no, they're not. If you ask them about the risk when they're drunk, they can outline it perfectly. What it stops them from doing is caring about the risk. That's why you can drive around drunk at high speed in a car, which is a really stupid thing to do. It's fun, like so many things. It's like jumping off a cliff. I'm flying. True until the last 1/10 of a second. It's like then you're not flying, man. Alcohol is an interesting drug. Alcohol. It's a hell of a drug. Alcohol. It's a great drug. But the problem is, it's a great drug. Alcohol is an interesting drug. Alcohol. It's a hell of a drug.
brothers and sisters of the MAZ, make some noise for Dr. Jordan B. Peterson. Make some noise for Theo Vaughn, who facilitated that conversation.
Perfect.
Make some noise for Akira the Don in 2004, who wrote the song The Drinking Song and then sampled himself years later. Hurrah! It's a good thing to do, sample yourself. I recommend it highly. I remember someone in the early days of JBP Wave. I remember the comment. Someone said it was very ironic that Jordan B. Peterson was essentially rapping over postmodern music. I don't think of it as postmodern music. I think of it as beautiful music, as timeless music. That's what I think. Keep your weirdo, definitions away from the wave. Thank you very much. But that did make me amused, you know. I was amused.
Perfect.
Yeah. Hey, did I tell you our trademark application came through? You know, there's been like a trademark thing on Meaning Wave. Like, we applied for it ages ago, but it's through. We have paperwork and everything, baby. Einstein did it, I guess. It's a drinking song. You can sing along. Well, it can't be wrong. Everybody loves a drinking song. I wrote a drinking song. Who do you think it? That's a timeless drinking song as well, you know? People sing that in bars across the world. Once I got a letter from a bunch of people. They were in the, what they called, the American Army, that's it. But they were in a submarine. And they said, when they had time off, they could go, if they could go off and drink, they sang the drinking song, right? And one time they all got drunk in the submarine and they weren't supposed to, and they sang the drinking song. How about that? I don't know if they weren't supposed to. I think that was the suggestion. That was the suggestion. Imagine a load of soldiers in a submarine singing this. It happened. You can sing along, and if you don't like drinking, well, it don't be wrong. Everybody loves a drinking song. Sivian says, I hope Akira owns meaningwave.com. Yeah, I mean, I hope he does as well. Probably you should go to meaningwave.com right now. Go to meaningwave.com and buy yourself a fine Meaning Wave jersey. I would do that if I was you, or you could go to meaningwave.com and peruse some lyrics. You could read the lyrics and just read them, you know? It's a good thing to do. Read the lyrics. Shouts out to James Royer, says, YouTube hero Alex, never stop. Please never stop. Yo. It's a drinking song. Yo, if you're a drunk soldier in a submarine right now, this is for you. Drinking, well, it can't be wrong. Everybody loves a drinking song. Yeah. It's a drinking song. It's a drinking song. And if you don't like drinking, you can sing along. If you do like singing, well, it can't be wrong. Everybody. Yeah. Bring me the guitar. Bring me the piano. Exodus. Movement for the wave, Lord. All right, let's get out of here, baby. I'm going to go regulate those this time of day vibes. I'm going to go downstairs and eat a big bowl of steak and watch Avatar. Yeah. That's the habit I've got for 3 more days, and then it's go smash it up and get some new ones, you know. After the meaning stream, I don't know if I told you, but basically what we do pretty much every night is I go downstairs and wifey gets me a big bowl of steak, right? And we sit down and we watch an episode of Avatar. Yeah, and it's a lovely family tradition that we have. You know, we're going to keep it up. But we've only got like 1 season of Avatar left, and maybe like 2 days. Oh. What up, DS Duenas, my guy? Captain. By the way, DS Duenas, I was doing something the other day, and I glanced at Twitter, and I saw you sent me a message about you doing some rapping. And do you know how many messages I get on Twitter? You know, so like, send me, if unless I dreamed that. Maybe I dreamed it. Sometimes I dream messages, you know. And then they didn't exist. I go looking for them and I can't find them. But if I didn't dream it, just send me that on the DM. Yeah. Anyway, what you're saying, I bought my girl her own self-control sweater and me a dragon tank top. That's wise. I appreciate that. I think that's very smart. You should be like DS Duenas. Oh, someone just see. I get a little notification when someone buys something through meaningwave.com. Someone just bought something. S-Day. Or maybe I shouldn't. Someone just bought a neck gaiter. Someone very smart just bought a JBP Wave Father neck gaiter. Hey, good for you. Proud of you. Everyone else, go be like them. Go buy things. Yeah, I got to build a studio. I got to build a whole studio. Oh my goodness. Got to build a studio, and I've got to buy a house full of furniture because we can't take any of it from here. Just flipping heck. I don't know why I do these ridiculous things, but I do. It's fine. You know, life is an adventure. Someone said life's a journey. I don't know about that. I don't know about a journey. That suggests that you've got to get somewhere, you know, and it's
research
all about
complete.
the getting there. So when you're not there, you're not alive or something. Do you know what I mean? It's a bit like the systems versus goals thing, right? Systems versus goals, because goals, if you've got a goal, the whole time you haven't achieved the goal, you're in a state of non-goal achievement. So it's not optimal. You know what I mean? Systems are good because you just execute them every day, and that means every day you win. Every day you win. That's one reason systems are better than goals, right? And that's one reason why life is not a journey. But it is an adventure. It is definitely an adventure. And there's so much adventure to be found in life, baby, and I would just look for the adventure, you know? If you see some adventure poking out, grab that adventure and get after it, you know? Get after that adventure, baby.
You gotta get after it.
You do. There's so much.
So
much adventure for you, baby. Yeah. Hey, Stuligo1 says JP Gator on the way. Good for you. Good for you. Good work. Get that gators flowing, baby. Let's do that international by 5 so I can go eat steak and watch Avatar. And then go make more records, you know, for this epic album. Pack up my studio. And all the other things I have to do. Ooh. All the other things that I get to do, all the other things that I choose to do, not have. By the way, you guys, if you ever catch me doing any limiting the language, please do let me know. It'll get annoying very quick, but it's good. I'm really trying to eliminate all of it. All of it. Rah. What up, James Royer? Can you build studios? Hit me on the Discord. All right, let's do that by 5. Boom. 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 Yeah, you know what to do. 3, 2, 3, 2, 1. 5, baby. Thank you for being here. You beautiful people of mine. God bless your life. See you in the morning. Oh, shoot. No, I'll see you in half an hour. 29 minutes for the Persuasive Beats premiere. I'll see you there. Excellent. All right, sweet dreams. Love you guys. Bless up.
Nightmare. War is awful. It is indifferent and devastating and evil. War is hell. But war is also an incredible teacher, a brutal teacher, and it teaches you lessons that you will not forget. In war,
research.
You are forced to see humanity at its absolute worst. And you are also blessed to see humanity in its most glorious moments. War teaches you about sorrow and loss and pain. And it teaches you about the preciousness and the fragility of human life. And in that fragility teaches you about death. But war also teaches you about brotherhood and honor and humility and leadership. And unfortunately, war teaches you the most when things go wrong.
Of course, that's a lot of what's celebrated symbolically at Christmas. The idea of the lights on the trees is the return of illumination, right? Because the sun is starting to come back. All these things are layered on top of one another, and so it's a remarkable. It's one of the things that's really made me so struck as a consequence of studying Christianity, is that so many levels of meaning stack on top of one another in an isomorphic manner and support one another. You know, there's a cosmic story that's associated with Christmas, which is the death and rebirth of the sun. I mean, the actual solar orb. And then there's the more prosaic story of the birth of a baby, which is, of course, a miraculous event in everyone's life. A miraculous event in everyone's life. Birth of a baby, which is, of course, a miraculous event in everyone's life. A miraculous event in everyone's life. Levels of meaning stack on top of one another. The birth of a baby, which is, of course, a miraculous event in everyone's life. A miraculous event in everyone's life. So Christ is the eternal hope of mankind, just like an infant is the eternal hope of mankind. He's born in lowly circumstances and in extreme peril, right? Because all the firstborns are under death sentence, essentially. And there's an archetypal element to that, too, which is really important to understand, which is that even if the hero is divine, he's always born in the extreme danger that characterizes existence itself. So in some sense, that balance between tragedy and catastrophe and tyranny and hope that typifies Christmas in reality for day-to-day people is also built right into the story. I mean, they're in a manger, for God's sake, right? It's a stable. And so it's pretty unstable. And there's the more prosaic story of the birth of a baby, which is, of course, a miraculous event in everyone's life. A miraculous event in everyone's life. Birth of a baby, which is, of course, a miraculous event in everyone's life. A miraculous event in everyone's life. Levels of meaning stack on top of one another. The birth of a baby, which is, of course, a miraculous event in everyone's life. A miraculous event in everyone's life. And then, of course, there's all these radical political events going on, and well, that's the way of mankind. Radical political and social events going on. And that's the way of mankind. So then there's the more prosaic story of the birth of a baby, which is, of course, a miraculous event in everyone's life. A miraculous event in everyone's life. Birth of a baby, which is, of course, a miraculous event in everyone's life. A miraculous event in everyone's life. Levels of meaning stack on top of one another. The birth of a baby, which is, of course, a miraculous event in everyone's life. A miraculous event in everyone's life. Birth of a baby, which is, of course, a miraculous event in everyone's life. A miraculous event in everyone's life. Birth of a baby, which is, of course, a miraculous event in everyone's life. A miraculous event in everyone's life. Levels of meaning. Birth of a baby, which is, of course, a miraculous event in everyone's life. A miraculous event in everyone's life.
We have tried scientifically to understand the world and explain its mysteries by analyzing the smallest particles of things that exist. Inquiring down, what is this thing we call flesh or call steel or stone? What is it made of? Go down into the midst of it. And that's given us a certain understanding. but only half of them understand. Equally important is not what is the tiniest part, but in what context is the tiniest part. You see? In relation to what is it? Just as the word bark, as I showed you, has different meanings in different sentences. So, the cells, molecules, atoms have different properties in different contexts. Different properties in different contexts. So what the scientist equally needs to study is not simply what is anything when very, very minutely analyzed, but where is it? When is it? That makes all the difference. So do you see that a lot of people who get anxious when they hear that everything is relative have no need to get that anxious. Relativity isn't some kind of slippery morass in which all standards and all directions get lost. Relativity is really the soundest situation that there is. Different properties in different contexts. Different properties in different contexts.
Sector scan.
Is really the soundest situation that there is. Relativity is really the soundest situation that there is.
To the extent that specific knowledge is taught, it's on the job. It's through apprenticeships, and that's why the best careers are the apprenticeship careers, because those are things that society still has not figured out how to train and automate yet. The classic line here is that Warren Buffett went to Benjamin Graham when he got out of school, and Benjamin Graham was the author of The Intelligent Investor, sort of modernized or created value investing as a discipline. And Warren Buffett went to Benjamin Graham and offered to work for him for free. And Graham said, actually, you're overpriced. Free is overpriced. And Graham was absolutely right. When it comes to a very valuable apprenticeship, like the type that Graham was going to give Buffett, Buffett should have been paying him a lot of money. And that right there tells you that those are skills worth knowing. Specific knowledge also tends to be technical and creative. So on the bleeding edge of technology, on the bleeding edge of art, on the bleeding edge of communication, even today, for example, there are probably meme lords out there on the internet who can create incredible memes that will spread the idea to millions of people. Incredible memes that will spread the idea to millions of people. Follow your own obsession. Follow your own obsession. Follow your own obsession. back of your mind, you can realize that, hey, actually, this obsession, I'll keep an eye out for the commercial aspects of it. But I think if you go around trying to build it a little too deliberately, if you become too goal-oriented on the money, then you won't pick the right thing. You won't actually pick the thing that you love to do, so you won't go deep enough into it. But I think it's important that one not start assembling things too deliberately, because you do want to pick things where you are a natural. Everyone is a natural at something. We're all familiar with that phrase, a natural. Oh, this person's a natural at meeting men or women. This person's a natural socialite. This person's a natural programmer. This person's a natural reader. So whatever you are a natural at, you want to double down on that. And then there are probably multiple things you're natural at, because personalities and humans are very complex. We want to be able to take the things that you are natural at and combine them so that you automatically, just through sheer interest and enjoyment, end up top 25 or top 10 or top 5% at a number of things.
Stop worrying about what you're not and start focusing on who you are. We all suck at shit. Stop worrying about what you're not and start focusing on who you are. We all suck at shit. All suck at shit. Stop worrying about what you're not and start focusing on who you are. We all suck at shit.
One scenario for solving our problem is a mass migration into the past. We could literally dump this whole scene and go 100 million years into the past of the planet, then set up there in a confined zone. If it were only 10,000 years deep, it would never show in any fossil record. If we held ourselves to a 10,000-year wide window, that's such a brief period of time and so long ago that we would basically just appear to have disappeared. I think this is a haunted planet, and we are a haunted species. I think this is a haunted planet, and we are a haunted species. Every solid body in the solar system is heavily cratered. I think this is a haunted planet, and we are a haunted species. Some of these craters are planet smashers. There is considerable and ever-increasing evidence that the cosmic neighborhood is fairly unstable. Is it possible that biology is somehow prescient, that biology somehow exists in eternity and knows the fate of the planet, and that what we are is a desperate strategy of escape, and that the planet actually can sense the possibility of a complete life-destroying asteroidal impact? I think this is a haunted planet, and we are a haunted species. I think this is a haunted planet, and we are a haunted species. Every solid body in the solar system is heavily cratered. I think this is a haunted planet, and we are a haunted species. A species, a bipedal monkey with binocular vision, has been led into the antechamber of nature's secrets in order to build machineries and unleash energies sufficient to either deflect that incoming object or flee the planet.
Is that you're one speck of dust among 7 billion. And when you conceptualize yourself that way, you might think, well, what difference does it make what I say or do? And that's actually quite convenient for you, because if it doesn't matter what you say or do, then you don't have any responsibility and you can do whatever you want. The price you pay for that is a bit of nihilism, but if you don't have to shoulder any responsibility, that's a small price to pay. The other way of looking at it, and this is actually the accurate way of looking at it, is that you're in a network. You're a node in a network, and so you can do a little bit of arithmetic very rapidly and just figure out how powerful you are. You know 1,000 people. They know 1,000 people. That means that you're one person away from 1 million people and 2 persons away from 1 billion people. And you're the center of that network. And now the way networks work is that information propagates in a networked manner. So don't underestimate the power of your speech. Don't underestimate the power of truth. There's nothing more powerful. Tell the truth. 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 Or at least don't lie. That's a start. Tell the truth. 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 Or at least don't lie. That's a start. Now, in order to speak what you might regard as the truth, you have to let go of the outcome. You have to think, all right, I'm going to say what I think, stupid as I am, biased as I am, ignorant as I am. I'm going to state what I think as clearly as I can, and I'm going to live with the consequences no matter what they are. Now, the reason you think that's an element of faith. The idea is that nothing brings a better world into being than the stated truth. Now, you might have to pay a price for that, but that's fine. You're going to pay a price for every bloody thing you do and everything you don't do. You don't get to choose to not pay a price. You get to choose which poison you're going to take. That's it. Tell the truth. 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 Or at least don't lie. That's a start. Tell the truth. 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 Or at least don't lie. That's a start. Almost impossible to provide people with enough protection so that they feel safe to speak. Okay, so we'll address that directly. It is not safe to speak, and it never will be. But the thing you got to keep in mind is that it's even less safe not to speak. Right? It's a balance of risks. It's like you want to pay the price for being who you are and stating your mode of being in the world, or do you want to pay the price for being a bloody serf, one that's enslaved him or herself? Well, that's a major price, man. That thing unfolds over decades, and you'll just be a miserable worm at the end of about 20 years of that, right? No self-respect, no power, no ability to voice your opinions, nothing left but resentment because everyone's against you. Say what you think carefully. Pay attention to your words. But it's a price you want to pay if you are willing to believe that truth is the cornerstone of society. In the most real sense, if you're willing to take that leap, then tell the truth and see what happens. Tell the truth. 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 Or at least don't lie. That's a start. Tell the truth. 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 Or at least don't lie. That's a start. You think, well, I'll lie and I'll get away with it. It's like, no, you won't. You cannot get away with warping the structure of being. It's like, well, I can lie and get away with it. It's like, I see. Here's your theory. There's all this reality around you that you don't comprehend at all. And there's not that much of you. There's a lot of it. And you're going to do something that isn't in harmony with that. And it's going to work. That's your theory.
Something I've been thinking about a lot. It's this notion of the clouds and the dirt. Meaning, I don't spend any time on the things that don't matter, and what doesn't matter is basically everything in between the overall vision and strategy and the real knowledge of it. The clouds are the high-end philosophy and beliefs that are at the heart of everything I am personally and everything I do professionally. Personally, it's really simple. Family first. Professionally, it's not that much different. 99% of what we deal with doesn't matter. If you religiously follow just a few core philosophies that mean most to you, everything else will naturally fall into place. Being an actual practitioner, it's the hard work. Being a good spouse, parent, son, sibling, and friend. Professionally, it's knowing my craft. I'm super not interested in being fancy. I'm willing to work. I'm never going to forget what I'm about, and I do unscalable, not the right use of my time shit 50% of my day, every day for the rest of clouds, dirt. People don't understand is the dirt is so important because unless you actually have the skills, your reputation or what you did the day before or who your mama isn't going to impact your success. Your success is going to be predicated by the dirt, and the dirt is a mixture of having the work ethic to get your hands dirty and then the experience predicated from actually doing the work. If you're not working on your craft, if you got too fancy to keep doing your thing, you lose. It's why I love comedians that still go to small clubs. Seinfeld, in his prime, just going to bullshit clubs in the middle of America and working on his craft. It's dirt. It's never getting too fancy to get away from what got you there in the first place. That's how people lose. Clouds and dirt. I love the fucking clouds and dirt. Clouds, dirt. Clouds. I love the fucking clouds and dirt. Clouds and dirt. Clouds, dirt. Clouds, dirt. There are too many people who are average at what they do, and then confused by their average results. Everyone has their own definition of clouds and dirt, but if there's any advice that I can offer you that will change the entire trajectory of your career, it's to start pushing at both edges. Raise the bar of your business philosophy, dig deeper into your craft. You want to make sure that you're equally an architect and a mason. You've got to be able to simultaneously think at a high level and get your hands dirty. Get after it. Clouds and dirt. Clouds and dirt. Clouds, dirt. Clouds. I love the fucking clouds and dirt. Clouds and dirt. Clouds, dirt. Clouds, dirt. A lot of times people don't have one or the other. They're too stuck in the minutia. They don't see the bigger picture. They don't know how to navigate, or they get it philosophically, but they don't have the skills or the appetite to actually be able to do it right. Know the details, know the philosophy, and don't worry about all the minutia in the middle. The politics, the process, all the crap that does not matter. That's it. I spend all my time in the clouds and the dirt.
Question?
I was wondering what you thought of Santa Claus. If it's a healthy thing for parents to practice. What's the psychological impact of lying to your child? Look. I think lying is the wrong way of thinking about this. Santa Claus is a game. It's a game of pretend. And children play games of pretend all the time. You know, so I don't see any harm in it at all. Now, you know, you don't want to prolong that belief beyond its natural endpoint, but it's a massive game, and it's a lovely game, and I don't believe that there's anything harmful in it in the least. Santa Claus is a game. It's a game of pretend. Santa Claus is a game. It's a game of pretend. Now, what's the psychological impact of lying to your child? We can think about that more generally. Don't lie to your children. Don't lie, period. Lying is a really bad idea. It's a really bad idea. It never works. You might think it works, but that's only because you're blind to the consequences, and probably willfully blind. Plus, it's a terrible weight. You know, if you don't lie, there's a lot fewer things to keep track of. Your life is a lot more pristine and crystalline. crystalline. And then things that come your way, maybe you deserve in some small measure, and it's a bad idea to lie. But I don't think it's a bad idea to play pretend games with your children. I think that's okay. Santa Claus is a game. It's a game of pretend. Santa Claus is a game. It's a game of pretend. Santa Claus is a game. It's a game of pretend. Santa Claus is a game. It's a game of pretend.
Given the triumphant academic setting here, an obvious question is how much of this work of adjusting our default
Research
setting involves
complete.
actual knowledge or intellect. This question gets very tricky. Probably the most dangerous thing about an academic education, at least in my own case, is that it enables my tendency to over-intellectualize stuff. To get lost in abstract arguments inside my head instead of simply paying attention to what's going on right in front of me. Paying attention to what is going on inside me. As I'm sure you guys know by now, it is extremely difficult to stay alert and attentive instead of getting hypnotized by the constant monologue inside your own head. Maybe happening right now. 20 years after my own graduation, I have come gradually to understand that the liberal arts cliche about teaching you how to think is actually shorthand for a much deeper, more serious idea. Learning how to think really means learning how to exercise some control over how and what you think. It means being conscious and aware enough to choose what you pay attention to and to choose how you construct meaning from experience. Learning how to think. Learning how to
A
think.
colonist has died.
Learning how to think. Learning how to think. Because if you cannot exercise this kind of choice in adult life, you will be totally hosed. Think of the old cliche about, quote, the mind being an excellent servant but a terrible master. This, like many cliches, so lame and unexciting on the surface, actually expresses a great and terrible truth. It is not the least bit coincidental that adults who commit suicide with firearms almost always shoot themselves in the head. The head. They shoot the terrible master. And the truth is that most of these suicides are actually dead long before they pull the trigger. And I submit that this is what the real, no bullshit value of your liberal arts education is supposed to be about. How to keep from going through your comfortable, prosperous, respectable adult life dead. Unconscious. A slave to your head and to your natural default setting of being uniquely, completely, imperially alone. Day in and day out. That may sound like hyperbole or abstract nonsense. Let's get concrete. The plain fact is that you graduating seniors do not yet have any clue what day in, day out really means. Learning how to think. Learning how to think. Learning how to think.
In spite of my nature boy thrust in most contexts, I'm very interested in virtual reality and the idea of making the imagination explicit or interiorizing the exterior world. One vision that I've had of a kind of future utopia is it opens on a world which looks like our world of 10,000 years ago. People live tribally, they are physically perfect, they are naked, they want for nothing. They appear to have no material culture whatsoever. Then when you shift your point of view so that you're inside one of these people's heads, you discover that when they close their eyes, there are menus hanging in space in front of them. And by glancing at these menus with a certain intensity, they are able to make their way into a culture that is entirely three-dimensionally present for them, but which nowhere impinges on the world of three-dimensional space. Sort of the idea that you could have the Vatican Library installed optionally when you have dental work. I don't think this is that far-fetched. I mean, a lot of money is going toward this. Money can be made from this. We have to figure out, unless we're ready to, hang the rascals, then we're going to have to figure out some way to make money out of saving the world, saving the world, saving the world, saving the world, saving the world. We're going to have to figure out some way to make money out of saving the world, 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 saving the world. And I think these entertainment technologies are the way to go. I think that what we should all be trading in 15 or 20 years from now is ideas. And ideas should be worth more than anything.
Let's say you want to sort out your room and beautify it, and let's say that all you have is just a little room, like you're not rich, but you've got your damn room and you've got the space right in front of you that's a part of the cosmos that you can come to grips with. Got the space right in front of you, space right in front of you, space right in front of you, but you've got your damn room and you've got the space right in front of you that's a part of the cosmos that you can come to grips with. Well, a room is a place to sleep, and so if you set your room up properly, then you figure out how to sleep and when you should sleep and how you should sleep, and you figure out when you should wake up, and then you figure out, well, what clothes you should wear, because they have to be arranged properly in your dresser, and then you have to have some place to put your clothes. If you're going to have some clothes, you have to figure out what you're going to wear those clothes to do, right? And then that means you have to figure out what you're going to do, and then your room has to serve that purpose, because otherwise it isn't set up properly. And if it doesn't serve your purposes, you will be unhappy and not happy in the room, because the way that we perceive the world is as a place to move from point A to point B in. You've got your damn room and you've got the space right in front of you, space right in front of you, space right in front of you. You've got your damn room and you've got the space right in front of you that's a part of the cosmos that you can come to grips with. You've got your damn room and you've got the space right in front of you, space right in front of you, space right in front of you. You've got your damn room and you've got the space right in front of you that's a part of the cosmos that you can come to grips with. And so what it means to set up your room is that you have to have somewhere to go that's worthwhile. The next thing is, well, maybe you have to make it beautiful, but that's not easy, right? That means you have to have some taste, and that doesn't mean you have to have money. It doesn't, because you can be garish with money and you can be tasteful with nothing. You have to be creative in order to do that. And so then to beautify your room means that you also have to develop your capacity to be creative. And so then you can make your room shine. You've got your damn room and you've got this space right in front of you, space right in front of you, space right in front of you. You've got your damn room and you've got this space right in front of you that's a part of the cosmos that you can come to grips with. You've got your damn room and you've got this space right in front of you, space right in front of you, space right in front of you. You've got your damn room and you've got this space right in front of you that's a part of the cosmos that you can come to grips with. But then what'll happen is that if your family isn't together, they will interfere with that. When you start building this little microcosm of perfection, it'll evoke all the pathologies of everyone in your household. They'll wonder what the hell you're up to in there. And they won't necessarily be happy because if they're in a lowly place, the higher you move out of that, the more the place they're in looks bad. And you might say, well, what they should do is celebrate your victory over chaos and evil, but that isn't what will happen. What will happen instead is that they will attempt to pull you back down. And so what that means is that if you organize your room, then you're going to have to confront the devils in your house. And that's often a terrifying thing because some of those devils have lineages that go back many, many generations. And God only knows what you have to struggle with in order to overcome that. You've got your damn room and you've got this space right in front of you, space right in front of you, space right in front of you. You've got your damn room and you've got this space right in front of you that's a part of the cosmos that you can come to grips with. You've got your damn room and you've got this space right in front of you, space right in front of you, space right in front of you. You've got your damn room and you've got this space right in front of you that's a part of the cosmos that you can come to grips with. It's a part of the cosmos that you can come to grips with. It's a part of the cosmos that you can come to grips with. It's a part of the cosmos that you can come to grips with. It's a part of the cosmos that you can come to grips with. It's a part of the cosmos that you can come to grips with. It's a part of the cosmos that you can come to grips with. It's a part of the cosmos that you can come to grips with. It's a part of the cosmos that you can come to grips with. And so to sort yourself out and to fix up your room is a non-trivial matter, you know.
Gratitude. On that 400 trillion to one thing, I'm grateful. Straight up, like I don't know what to say. Like you might have not been born, right? Like your dad could have been late to the apartment that day. On some real shit. Like I don't think people would contextualize perspective. Like what? Like you're alive. Like you're alive. You could have been a tree. You could have like right? Like this is cool. Like life is good. Life is good. Like it's cool to have one. It's cool to have one. Life is good. Life is good. Like it's cool to have one. That's number one. One of the biggest things for me is being the bigger person. I hate conflict. Ironically, like I'm a tough guy when I have the mic and nobody else can talk, but in real life, I like happiness and vibes and like I've eaten shit my whole life. Kids stole hundreds of thousands of dollars from me in the liquor store. Like I found a way for him not to go to jail for a long time. Like, you know, like just being the bigger person has been a core principle of mine. Not valuing money over family and like happiness has been huge. Fuck money. Like really. Fuck money. You cannot care about money more when you don't care about what people think about your money. You know? Life is good. Life is good. Like it's cool to have one. It's cool to have one. Life is good. Life is good. Like it's cool to have one. That's number one. Patience. Holy shit, I'm gonna live 4 more full lives. And no matter how crazy what I think about right now is, and like what I want to accomplish on or off the field, I got 4 fucking lives to do it. You guys know Grey Goose? The guy who invented that as an entrepreneur invented it at 78. 78 years old. You know? That's life. Like, you could do everything wrong, have every dream you've ever had fucked up, blame it on other people, the girl fucked it up, that injury fucked it up, coach fucked it up, blame everybody, have everything go wrong, be 57 years old, and still have fucking 40 years to make it right. It's crazy, honestly. Like, if there was some crazy new drug that I could, like, inject in you that gave you perspective of time, that's the drug I would give you. Straight up. Life is good. Life is good. Like, it's cool to have one. It's cool to have one. Life is good. This is cool. Life is good. Like, it's cool to have one. optimistic. People are sitting here dwelling already. Dwelling already. Fuck, I shouldn't have come to Rutgers. Fucking knew it. Of course there's people thinking that. Like, that's just real life. Dwelling already, haven't even fucking started. Man, that's what I want to change.
Life is good. Like it's good to have one. It's good to have one. Life is good. Life is good. Like it's good to have one. That's number one.
Here's just one example of the total wrongness of something I tend to be automatically sure of. Everything in my own immediate experience supports my deep belief that I am the absolute center of the universe. The realest, most vivid, and important person in existence. We rarely talk about this sort of natural, basic self-centeredness because it's so socially repulsive. But it's pretty much the same for all of us. It is our default setting, hardwired into our boards at birth. Think about it. There is no experience you have had that you are not at the absolute center of. The world as you experience it is there in front of you or behind you, to the left or right of you, on your TV or your monitor. The world as you experience it is there in front of you or behind you, to the left or right of you, on your TV or your monitor, and so on. Other people's thoughts and feelings have to be communicated to you somehow, but your own are so immediate, urgent, real. Please don't worry that I'm getting ready to lecture you about compassion or other directedness or all the so-called virtues. This is not a matter of virtue. It's a matter of my choosing to do the work of somehow altering or getting free of my natural, hardwired default setting, which is to be deeply and literally self-centered, and to see and interpret everything through this lens of self. People who can adjust their natural default setting this way are often described as being well adjusted, which I suggest to you is not an accidental term. The world as you experience it is there in front of you or behind you, to the left or right of you, on your TV or your monitor. The world as you experience it is there in front of you or behind you, to the left or right of you, on your TV or your monitor.
What are the criteria that I think are most important when choosing an arch nemesis? First of all, it should be somebody that you want to see in this world. You should be sad if somehow your arch nemesis were to meet a bad end, because you want that person to be with you, competing with you for the long haul. it should be somebody that you would be very upset if you found out that they were suddenly dead and removed from this mortal coil. It should also be somebody who accepts you as his or her arch nemesis. I don't think you should just go about deciding that Elon Musk or Donald Trump is your arch nemesis if they've never even heard of you, much less they don't obsess about you. What are the criteria that I think are most important when choosing an arch nemesis? What are the criteria that I think are most important when choosing an arch nemesis? An arch nemesis. An arch nemesis. What are the criteria that I think are most important when choosing an arch nemesis? I think it's important that there be a level of mutuality, and that you choose your arch nemesis and that your arch nemesis chooses you, or said slightly differently, that you both recognize that this is the nature of your relationship. It should also be the case that if you were to lose, you might want them to win. That's a hard thing to couple to the fact that in order for them to win, you would have to lose. But both of these conditions need to be met. In general, if my particular take on physics turned out to be vacuous, I would want to find out that Garrett actually had a theory that was workable. It would give me no pleasure to find out that he too was also incorrect. That's a very complicated dynamic to get going. What are the criteria that I think are most important when choosing an arch nemesis? What are the criteria that I think are most important when choosing an arch nemesis? An arch nemesis. An arch nemesis. What are the criteria that I think are most important when choosing an arch nemesis?
What I'm saying is, I think this. I'm trying to share with you a certain style of life and an attitude to life and an insight. I've taken you on one side and said,
listen, kids, things aren't what they seem. Don't be fooled. Listen, kids, things aren't what they seem. Don't be fooled. Listen, kids, things aren't what they seem. Don't be fooled. There's a big deception going on, and you're involved in it, but I just thought you ought to know. I'm terribly puzzled about the way people go out of their way to disenjoy themselves. They take so much trouble about it. And all around, you have only to look, and you see this perfect passion for making the world look grisly. And it isn't only job builders and garage owners who do this kind of thing. It's also people who profess to be painters. They're actually using excrements for painting in Paris today, on the theory that the world is shot to pieces, and that since the artist is a representative of his times, he ought to show the times as they really are, as a social critic. So he makes the most weird. He paints Campbell's soup cans. And he makes music that shrieks and screams. He just goes out of his way to make it sound as ugly as he possibly can manage. And the ingenuity is about that is endless. Because that is the times. These are critical. You see? Listen, kids. Things aren't what they seem. Don't be fooled. Listen, kids. Things aren't what they seem. Don't be fooled. Listen, kids. Things aren't what they seem. Don't be fooled. There's a big deception going on. And you're involved in it, but I just thought you ought to know it. Let's take the character of the Pied Piper. The person who brings you an invitation to dance. I say then, you see, there is going to be a dance this evening, and I would like you all to come. That's the spirit in which I invite you to a seminar. I am not inviting you in the spirit of saying, no, we're going to have to discuss some very grave matters. And you ought to be awake to all these things and arouse your social confidence. When you get through with all that, then what? When you get through with all that, then what? When you get through with feeding the hungry and clothing the naked, and we are making great strides with automation and technology in abolishing poverty totally, then what are we going to do? Then what are we going to do? Well, you see, if you've got all these people clothed and fed and so on, and then they say, well, now what next? If you've got a kind of Quakerish state of mind, you don't know what to do. Well, feed and clothe somebody else. Get busy. But then, where is that leading? Listen, kids. Things aren't what they seem. Don't be fooled. Listen, kids. Things aren't what they seem. Don't be fooled. Listen, kids. Things aren't what they seem. Don't be fooled. There's a big deception going on. And you're involved in it, but I just thought you ought to know it. Listen, kids. Things aren't what they seem. Don't be fooled. Listen, kids. Things aren't what they seem. Don't be fooled. Listen, kids. Things aren't what they seem. Don't be fooled. There's a big deception going on. And you're involved in it, but I just thought you ought to know it.
Society what it wants, but does not yet know how to get at scale.
That's right. We talked about before, money is IOUs from society saying you did something good in the past, now here's something that we owe you for the future. And so society will pay you for creating things that it wants. But society doesn't yet know how to create those things. Society always wants new things. Society always wants new things. Society always wants new things. And if you want to be wealthy, you want to figure out which one of those things you can provide for society that it does not yet know how to get, but it will want. Almost everything in your house, in your workplace, and on the street used to be technology at one point in time. There was a time when oil was technology that made J.D. Rockefeller rich. Cars were technology that made Henry Ford rich. Technology is just a set of things, as Alan Kay said, that don't quite work yet. Once something works, it's no longer technology. Society always wants new things. Society always wants new things. Society always wants new things. And if you want to be wealthy, you want to figure out which one of those things you can provide for society that it does not yet know how to get, but it will want. That's that's natural to you and within your skill set, within your capabilities, and then you have to figure out how to scale it. Because if you just build one of it, that's not enough. You got to build thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions or billions of them, so everybody can have one. Steve Jobs and his team, of course, figured out that society would want smartphones, computer in their pocket that had all the phone capability times 100 and be easy to use. So they figured out how to build that, and then they figured out how to scale it, and then they figured out how to get one into every first world citizen's pocket, and eventually every third world citizen too. And so because of that, they're handsomely rewarded, and Apple is the most valuable company in the world. First, it starts with an act of creativity. First, you create it just because you want it. You want it, and you know how to build it, and you need it. And so you build it for yourself. Then you figure out how to get it to other people, and then for a little while, rich people have it. Like, for example, rich people had chauffeurs, and then they had black town cars, and then Uber came along, and everyone's private driver was available to everybody. And now you can even see Uber Pools that are replacing shuttle buses because it's just more convenient. And then you get scooters, which are even further down market of that. It's about distributing what rich people used to have to everybody. But the entrepreneur's job starts even before that, which is creation. Entrepreneurship is essentially an act of creating something new from scratch, predicting that society will want it, and then figuring out how to scale it and get it to everybody in a profitable way, in a self-sustaining way. Society always wants new things. Society always wants new things. Society always wants new things. And if you want to be wealthy, you want to figure out which one of those things you can provide for society that it does not yet know how to get, but it will want. Society always wants new things. Society always wants new things. Society always wants new things. And if you want to be wealthy, you want to figure out which one of those things you can provide for society that it does not yet know how to get, but it will want.
It does seem to me that anyone who lives in the West, in the Western culture, this time in history, and in this place, and who isn't simultaneously grateful for that, is half blind, at least. Because it's never been better than this, and it could be so much worse. It's never been better than this, and it could be so much worse. It's never been better than this, and it could be so much worse. So much worse. So much worse.
There was a paper published in Nature not so long ago stating, for example, that an area twice the size of the US has greened in the last 15 years. There's more forests in the Northern Hemisphere than there were 100 years ago, and more forests in India and China than there were 30 years ago. And then this has gone along with a massively improved standard of living. The child mortality rate in Africa is now the same as it was in Europe in 1952, which is a statistic that I just regard as absolutely miraculous. The rate of poverty is diminishing at an amazing rate, right? Between 2000 and 2012, we have poverty.
It's never been better than this, and it could be so much worse. It's never been better than this, and it could be so much worse. It's never been better than this, and it could be so much worse. So much worse. So much worse.
It's pretty hard on the Marxists, I would say, even though there is inequality, and inequality is a problem. First of all, it doesn't look like inequality can be placed at the feet of capitalism. It seems to me to be a far more intractable problem than that. Second, it's clear that the poor are getting richer despite the fact of inequality. And third, and this is hard on the environmentalists, I think, is that turns out that if you get people's income up to about $5,000 a year in terms of gross domestic product, they actually start to care about the environment, which I suppose is because they're not worried about dying instantly that day or that week. And so we seem to be in this perverse situation for a pessimist where we can make people wealthy and we could make the world a better place simultaneously.
It's never been better than this. And it could be so much worse. It's never been better than this. And it could be so much worse. It's never been better than this. And it could be so much worse. So much worse. So much worse. And it's highly likely that it will be so much worse. Because for most of human history, so much worse is the norm.
I'm deep in the cookie jar. The cookie jar is something that I've made up of all the failures of my life. All the things that I failed and I went back. I failed and I went back and I finally succeeded. All the things that kicked my ass. I put them all in the cookie jar because at times of hell, even the hardest men, in times of suffering, what we do is we forget how hard we really are. Because that's what suffering is. Suffering is a test. That's all it is. Suffering is a true test of life. And so that cookie jar travels in my brain. So whenever I get put in a situation where I have poopy pants, the woe is me mentality of, oh my God, life sucks, I take the 1 second decision. I step out of my life for 1 second, go in the cookie jar, pull up, oh, motherfucker, you were in 3 hell weeks and finished 2. One of those hell weeks, a guy died because it was so bad. Oh, you are a motherfucking badass. You are. I put it back in the cookie jar and I remember who the fuck I really am. I'm not the kid that was called nigga. I'm not the scared kid. This is who I am. It's a reminder of who you truly are at the core of yourself. This is who I am. But what I was saying to myself the whole time on that track, this is who I am. Self-talk and visualization are the 2 keys to my success. I believed for that last 19 miles, I was indestructible. Because I took myself in that chair, crapping up my back, peeing blood in my leg, shin splint, stress fractures. I use all that for motivation versus negativity. I use it for motivation. I said to myself, who on this fucking earth would still be going right now? You are. You are. You gotta be the hardest motherfucker on the planet. Is it true? I don't give a fuck. At that time, it got me to the finish line of that fucking race. I believed it. I believe it today. I believed it enough to where my body said, he's not gonna stop. And I took all the negative things. I need to go to the hospital, this and that, and I used it all. Who the hell could even get out of that chair? This is who I am. Who the hell would even think about taping stress fractures up? This is who I am. You did. You did. This is who I am. All those things I use for motivation. This is who I am. This is who I am. This is who I am.
You know, when people think of the word mind control, they think of controlling other people's minds. And when I think about mind control, I think about controlling your own mind. Because while I am obviously a physical person, sure, and I embrace physicality, we are our minds. What it means and where the you actually is, and whether there's a soul or a brain or whatever, your heart or some other conjured up place. This is what I know, is that your mind, the thing that is listening and comprehending these words right now, that is you. And that thing, that mind, you can control. You are the machine. Mind control. You are the machine. Mind control. And you can control the machine. Mind control. You have that ability. Mind control. And then you are going to do what you want to do. And people ask me, how do I get tougher? Be tougher. They ask me, how can I wake up earlier in the morning? The answer is, wake up earlier in the morning. How can I work out consistently every single day? Work out consistently every single day. How can I stop from eating sugar? Stop eating sugar. What about the emotions? How can I stop missing that girl or that guy or whoever broke up with me? How can I stop missing them? Stop missing them. That is mind control. You have that ability. You just have to assert it. You have to decide that you're going to be in control. Mind control. You are the machine. Mind control. And you can control the machine. Mind control. You have that ability. Mind control. And then you are going to do what you want to do. Weakness doesn't get a vote. Laziness, they don't get a vote. Sadness, no vote. Frustration, no vote. Negativity, you don't get a vote. I don't even give my temper a vote. So the next time you're feeling weak, or you're feeling lazy, or you're feeling soft, or you're feeling emotional, tell them that they don't get a vote. Tell them you are declaring martial law on your mind. You're declaring mind control. And impose what you want
of the reasons I've preached DMT so furiously is I just want a larger body of people to take it so that we can compare data. We need to understand, how is this possible? It raises a whole host of questions. How has it been kept secret? How can millions of people go to the grave, raise children, hold jobs, the news of a doorway standing that agape hasn't penetrated? I mean, most people believe they're imprisoned in this world. The only hope is maybe 15 years at the ashram and hideous acts of self-abnegation and control. And actually, the boundary between us and an unspeakably bizarre world, it's 30 seconds away at any time, as long as you have DMT. That's appalling to me. I mean, it means we don't know. Leprechauns is they want to keep you. If they catch you or if you mess with them, they'll hold you. And then you have to bargain your way out. And the bargain is always the solution of a riddle. Notice that what's happening here is it's all about linguistic prowess. It's all about poetic skill. It's all about language ability. Only the eloquent, only the clever, only those who are masters of riddlery and pun are acceptable to these entities. That's what they value. Why? I guess because they're made of language. And they themselves, they're like self-dribbling jeweled basketballs. In other words, they don't have faces or anything. And they use the language to make objects. We don't know. Yeah, we don't know. We don't know. Yeah. Yeah, we don't know. This language is different from ordinary English. English, we can make meaning. The DMT language makes objects. It's like a higher dimensional language. And so these things bound forward with the complete purpose of delighting you. And they reach into the air, into their bodies, into some nearby invisible dimension, and they pull out what I would call words, puns, objects, hallucinations, things which manage to be all those things simultaneously. And they say, look at this, and it's purely designed to dazzle and astound. And then a colleague will elbow the little guy aside and say, no, look at this. And they're all in front of you, chirping, clamoring, and these objects that they make begin themselves to speak and float away and reproduce. 30 seconds ago, you were sitting in a room with your grubby friend somewhere pursuing spiritual understanding. Now, this is going on, and it's very hard to not be horrified. I mean, the cognitive dissonance, the neck-snapping switch of dimensions, and then after about 3, 4, 5 minutes, it retracts. It loses its vitality, and it begins to pull away from you, almost like a boat pulling away from a dock. And in fact, I had one trip where, metaphorically, not having hands, they all turned and waved and said, "Deja vu, deja vu, deja vu, deja vu." don't know nothing. We don't know nothing.
Be able to hold a candle to AI. It's less of a worry than it used to be, mostly due to taking more of a fatalistic attitude. It's not necessarily bad. It's definitely going to be outside of human control. Yeah, it's not necessarily bad. It's just outside of human control.
I try to convince people to slow down AI. To regulate AI. This was futile. I tried for years. Nobody listened. I tried to convince people to slow down AI. To regulate AI. This was futile. I tried for years. Nobody listened. A company is essentially a cybernetic collective of people and machines. That's what a company is. And then there's different levels of complexity in the way these companies are formed. Is there sort of like a collective AI in the Google search where we're all sort of plugged in as like nodes on the network, like leaves on a big tree. We're all feeding this network without questions and answers. We're all collectively programming the AI. And Google, plus all the humans that connect to it, are one giant cybernetic collective. This is also true of Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all these social networks. They're giant cybernetic collectives. I try to convince people to slow down AI, to regulate AI. This was futile. I tried for years. Nobody listened. I tried to convince people to slow down AI, to regulate AI. This was futile. I tried for years. Nobody listened. It feels like we are the biological bootloader for AI. Effectively, we are building it. And then we're building progressively greater intelligence. The percentage of intelligence that is not human is increasing. And eventually, we will represent a very small percentage of intelligence. The AI is informed, strangely, by the human limbic system. It is our id writ large. All those things, the sort of primal drives, all the things that we like and hate and fear, they're all there on the internet. They're a projection of our limbic system. I try to convince people to slow down AI, to regulate AI. This was futile. I tried for years. Nobody listened. I tried to convince people to slow down AI, to regulate AI. This was futile. I tried for years. Nobody listened. Normally the way that regulations work is very slow. Very slow indeed. If you look at, say, automotive regulations, how long did it take for seatbelts to be required? The auto industry fought seatbelts, I think, for more than a decade. The numbers were extremely obvious. If you had a seatbelt on, you would be far less likely to die or be seriously injured. It's unequivocal. Eventually, after many, many people died, regulators insisted on seatbelts. This time frame is not relevant to AI. You can't take 10 years from the point at which it's dangerous. It's too late. It's too late.
So that the individual will no longer think he's a little boy. There's some rather amusing ones from Australia, for instance, where things are pretty fierce.
Research complete.
When little boys begin to become kind of nasty and difficult for their mothers to handle, the women get together and give them a good beating around the legs with sticks and so forth, and then in a few weeks, something very interesting happens. Dressed up in strange, godlike costumes, such as the youngsters have always been taught were the figures of the divinities. They come in with bull roars and yowls and all kinds of terrifying noises, and the children, the boys, run to their mothers for protection. And the mothers pretend to protect them. Then the men grab them and take them away, so mother's no good anymore. And now they have to face this thing. And then what they have to face is really no fun. So mother's no good anymore. And now they have to face this thing. And then what they have to face is really no fun. So mother's no good anymore. And now they have to face this thing. And then what they have to face is really no fun. One of the little crises, the boy is behind a screen of bushes. And a lot of very interesting things are going on outside. At night, dances and so forth. The boys are told not to look. Well, any boy who does look, can you imagine what's done with him? He's killed and eaten. That is one way to handle juvenile delinquents. Any youngster who will not cooperate with the society that is supporting him is just eradicated. Then he's given a chance to see what's going on out there. So he's sitting, a scared kid, that means about 12 or 13 years old, at the end of this dance field, and it's night. A strange man comes out, performing the myth of the cosmic kangaroo. The cosmic dog comes out and attacks the kangaroo. And after the youngster has seen this, two big fellas come rushing down the field and jump on the kid, and continue to jump on him. He's going to remember kangaroo and dog forever. This thing is built in. They may not be bright, but they get the point. And there aren't many points to be got. So mother's no good anymore. And now they have to face this thing. And then what they have to face
is really no fun. So mother's no good anymore. And now they have to face this thing. And then what they have to face is really no fun. So mother's no good anymore. And now they have to face this thing. And then what they have to face is really no fun. So mother's no good anymore. And now they have to face this thing. And then what they have to face is really no fun. That I won't go through, but they're all pretty exciting, let's say. And when they're all over, the kid isn't the kid he was before he came. A lot has happened. His body has been changed, and he's then sent back to the girls. And there's one of them already selected to be his wife, and he's now a guaranteed little man. And he's going to behave as a man of this crowd ought to behave.
Okay, so here's the problem. There's a big problem here. The problem is, it's true. You're oppressed, 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 you're oppressed. God only knows why. You're oppressed, 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 you're oppressed. God only knows why. Maybe you're too short, or you're not as beautiful as you could be, or your grandparent was a serf. Likely, because almost everybody's great-grandparent was. You know, you're not as smart as you could be, and you have a sick relative, and you have your own physical problem. Frankly, you're a mess. Frankly, you're a mess. And you're oppressed in every possible way, including your ancestry and your biology. The entire sum of human history has conspired to produce victimized you with all your individual pathological problems. It's like, yes! True! You're oppressed, 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 you're oppressed. God only knows why. You're oppressed, 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 you're oppressed. God only knows why. Okay, but the problem is that it is true, and so if you take the oppressed, you have to fractionate them and fractionate them and fractionate them and fractionate them, and it's like, you're a woman. Yeah, okay, well, I'm a black woman. Well, I'm a black woman who has 2 children. Well, I'm a black woman who has 2 children, and one of them isn't very healthy. And then, well, I'm a Hispanic woman, and I have a genius son who doesn't have any money so that he can't go to university. My husband is an alcoholic brute. It's like, well, yeah, that sucks too. And so, let's fix all your oppression. Let's fix all your oppression. Let's fix all your and we'll take every single thing into account, and then we'll fix yours too. We'll take every single thing into account. It's like, no, you won't. No, you won't. No, you won't. Because you can't. You can't. It is technically impossible. You're oppressed, 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 you're oppressed. God only knows why. You're oppressed, 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 you're oppressed. God only knows why. First of all, you can't even list all the ways that you're oppressed. Second, how are you going to weight them? Third, who's going to decide? That's the bloody thing. Who's gonna decide? Who's gonna decide?
the thing. You have to fractionate the oppressed all the way down to the level of the individual. Oh, that's what the West figured out. It's not an accident that the axiomatic Western individual is someone who is unfit, cross, and tortured. It's like, yes, right, exactly. The truth, you know?
Because I am a stage 4 cancer survivor. And in my darkest hours that a lot of people can't comprehend, you were there. You know, I'm gonna live life. I'm going to live my days. How did you get from, I don't know if I'm gonna come out of this battle. I don't know if I'm gonna come home. How did you get from the darkest places to the brightest places?
Sam Harris said to me, you talk about combat as your fondest memories, the best thing that's happened in your life, the high point of your life, which is all true. And he said, but then you talk about war being awful. So, which one is it? I said to him, have you ever known anyone that has had cancer? Terminal cancer? And made it through? Have you ever known anyone that's happened to? And he's like, yes. And I said, when you talk to them, many times, they say, I'm glad that this happened to me. Number one, because it proved I could take it. Number two, it's better me than one of my kids. And number three, now that I know how dark it can get, I know how dark it can get. Now that I know how dark it can get, I truly appreciate the light in the world. Now that I know how dark it can get, I know how dark it can get. Now that I know how dark it can get, I truly appreciate the light in the world. That's what combat is and was for me. That's what it was. It was dark and horrible, and I wouldn't wish it on anyone, just like you wouldn't wish cancer on anyone. But if I can give them a little knowledge, a little bit of a glimpse into what it is, when you said that, people are clapping because they get to see a little bit of it. And they go home tonight and they think, oh, what about that girl? What about that girl? She's fighting. She's living. And I'm gonna live too. And I'm gonna live too. Now that I know how dark it can get, I know how dark it can get. Now that I know how dark it can get, comprehend the mysteries of the world. But maybe you're right. And maybe you're here to let us know that it can get dark, but it will get light again. Now that I know how dark it can get, I know how dark it can get. Now that I know how dark it can get, I truly appreciate the light in the world. Now that I know how dark it can get, I know how dark it can get. Now that I know how dark it can get, I truly appreciate the light in the world.
He's got clout.
The reason why I got everything's a scam in a neon sign in my apartment is because I think that's the most optimistic message you can think of every day. So I wanted to remind myself of that every morning when I woke up.
And the reason why I think it's optimistic is that you see all these different problems, right? And all these things in the world. And you're like, well, I don't understand that thing. Like, I don't understand.
In my case,
longevity research and science and hard work. I don't understand any of these things in a deeply technical way. I want to affect them. A lot of the reasons why people don't go into different fields is they think, well, there's this kind of expert status around this field, which means I can't ever infiltrate it. And the thing that I want to remember every day is that expertise is a scam. It's like a power hierarchy that's been created within an industry to prevent other people from being able to go and get into it. Everything's a scam. Everything's a scam. Everything's a scam. Everything's a scam. Academia is a scam. Venture capital is a scam. Everything's a fucking scam. Right? But if you realize that, then you can do anything. Why I think remembering everything is a scam is important is that it boosts your self-efficacy to remind yourself that if everything's a scam, then if you have high integrity and you want to go solve a problem, it's probably the case that it'll take you pretty far. More far than trying to play the traditional game, which is a scam. So, to me, everything is a scam is not a negative thing. It's a reminder to just play the game. Any game you want to play, just go play it. It's just a fucking game. Any game you want to play, just go play it. It's just a fucking game. Everything's a scam. Everything's a scam. Everything's a scam. Everything's a scam. Academia is a scam. Venture capital is a scam. Everything's a fucking scam. Right? But if you realize that, then you can do anything.
Any game you want to play, just go play it. Any game you want to play, just go play it. Any game you want to play, just go play it. It's just a fucking game. Any game you want to play, just go play it. Any game you want to play, just go play it. Any game you want to play, just go play it. It's just a fucking game.
Everything's a scam. Everything's a scam. Everything's a scam. Everything's a scam. Academia is a scam. Venture capital is a scam. Everything's a fucking scam. Right? But if you realize that, then you can do anything.
And you can do anything. You can do anything. You can do anything.
He's got clout.
The first point was about how you're not going to get rich. You're not going to get rich renting out your time. You must own equity, a piece of a business, to gain your financial freedom.
This is probably one of the absolute most important points. People seem to think that you can create wealth and make money through work. It's probably not going to work. There are many reasons for that, but the most basic is just that your inputs are very closely tied to your output. In almost any salaried job, even a one that's paying a lot per hour, like a lawyer or a doctor, you're still putting in the hours, and every hour you get paid. So what that means is when you're sleeping, you're not earning. When you're retired, you're not earning. When you're on vacation, you're not earning. And you can't earn non-linearly.
You're not going to get rich renting out your time, renting out your time, renting out your time. You're not going to get rich renting out your time. You must own equity, piece of a business. You're not going to get rich renting out your time, renting out your time, renting out your time. You're not going to get rich renting out your time. You must own equity to gain your financial freedom. Your financial freedom.
If you look at even doctors who get rich, like really rich, it's because they open a business. They open like a private practice, and that private practice builds a brand. Essentially, you're working for somebody else. And that person is taking on the risk and has the accountability and the intellectual property and the brand. So they're just not going to pay you enough. They're going to pay you the bare minimum that they have to get you to do the job. And that can be a high bare minimum, but it's still not going to be true wealth where you're retired. You're not creating new things for society. You're just doing things over and over. You're essentially replaceable because you're now doing a set role. Most set roles can be taught. If they can be taught, like in a school, then eventually you'll be competing with someone who's got more recent knowledge, who's been taught, and is coming in to replace you. You're much more likely to be doing a job that can be eventually replaced by a robot or by AI.
You're not going to get rich renting out your time, renting out your time, renting out your time. You're not going to get rich renting out your time. You must own equity, piece of a business. You're not going to get rich renting out your time, renting out your time, renting out your time. You're not going to get rich renting out your time. You must own equity to gain your financial freedom.
Research complete.
Your financial freedom.
You really just want a job or a career or a profession where your inputs don't match your outputs. Businesses that have high creativity and high leverage tend to be ones where you could do an hour of work and it can have a huge effect, or you can do 1,000 hours of work and it can have no effect. One great engineer can, for example, create Bitcoin and create billions of dollars worth of value. An engineer who's working on the wrong thing or not quite as good or just not as creative or thoughtful or whatever can work for an entire year, and every piece of code that they ship ends up not getting used.
You're not going to get rich renting out your time, renting out your time, renting out your time. You're not going to get rich renting out your time. You must own equity, piece of a business. You're not going to get rich renting out your time, renting out your time, renting out your time. You're not going to get rich renting out your time. You must own equity to gain your financial freedom. Your financial freedom. Your financial freedom. Your financial freedom.
That you want to look for things that are leveraged, and by leverage I don't mean financial leverage alone like Wall Street uses, and that has a bad name. I'm just talking about tools. We're using tools. Computer is a tool that software engineers use. If I'm a lumberjack with bulldozers and automatic robot axes and saws, I'm going to be using tools and have more leverage than someone who's just using his bare hands and trying to rip the trees out by their roots. Tools and leverage are what create this disconnection between inputs and outputs. Creativity, so the higher the creativity component of a profession, the more likely it is to have disconnected inputs and outputs. So I think that if you're looking at professions where your inputs and your outputs are highly connected, it's going to be very, very, very hard to create wealth and make wealth for yourself in that process.
Let's welcome to the stage Mr. Gary Vaynerchuk.
All right, let's go. Let's sit down. Let's do this. I wish we had better perspective. I wish that there was some weird genie that could take us back into time so that every one of you could live one fucking day in your great-great-grandparents' shoes and understand how fucking good you have it. Like if you really, really understood I'm not naive to what's happening in our society. Let me just say this very clear so everybody gets it through their fucking dome. This is the greatest year to ever be alive in the history of mankind. This is the greatest year to ever be alive in the history of mankind. This is the best. This is the best. This is the greatest year to ever be alive in the history of mankind. Fascinated by this. Fascinated by fucking mindset. It's a binary decision if you're gonna be positive or negative about shit. When you bet on optimism, when you're on the offense, when you are playing towards intangibles, you do something super duper interesting. You start suffocating excuses. If you ask me what the number one thing is that I'm thankful for that my parents gave me, taking me from a communist country and moving me to the US, parenting me well, roof and clothes. If you ask me the number one thing I wake up every morning and thank that my parents did, is I never saw either one of them complain about jack shit. And it basically created learned behavior for me. I am incapable of actually complaining about shit. This is the greatest year to ever be alive in the history of mankind. This is the greatest year to ever be alive in the history of mankind. This is the best. This is the best. This is the greatest year to ever be alive in the history of mankind. This is the best. We have it the best. And all I see is people sitting around dwelling around dumb shit, what they don't have, instead of focusing on what they do have. The internet is a fucking miracle. It's a fucking miracle. The internet is a fucking miracle. It's a fucking miracle. There was no side hustle for your great-grandparents. When it was 9 p.m., it was dark and cold outside. We just get used to shit so fast. And in our speed of getting used to how fucking awesome it is, I'm just desperate for you to not lose perspective. This is the greatest year to ever be alive in the history of mankind. This is the greatest year to ever be alive in the history of mankind. This is the best. This is the best. This is the greatest year to ever be alive in the history of mankind. Both my grandfathers had the same exact thing that I had, and because they were Jewish in communist Russia post-World War II, their communism put them both in jail for 10 years in Siberia. Like, just think about that. Timing, opportunity. or defense. You are either sitting in your seat right now on the offense or you're not. There is no fucking half pregnant. There's no in between. You're either this or that.
It would be better if the person was roughly your age. Or shared some of your characteristics. I think you need to be able to see some of yourself in your arch nemesis. I think you need to be able to see some of yourself in your arch nemesis.
In my case, I feel like Garrett has been a renegade. He has broken rules, but he's also been an insider and an outsider. He has a PhD in physics. He has been more outside the system. I stayed longer probably in the academic game than he did. There is a sort of a degree of comparability. That lies over my shoulder. I started to feel better about it when I saw into Floyd Mayweather's home after he defeated Conor McGregor. There was a photograph taken of Floyd Mayweather with giant pictures of him and Conor McGregor inside of his home. And so the idea that you would actually want to represent your arch nemesis inside of your personal space, it makes complete sense to me.
I think you need to be able to see
some of yourself in your arch nemesis. I think you need to be able to see some of yourself in your arch nemesis. I think you need to be able to see some of yourself in your arch nemesis. I think you need to be able to see some of yourself in your arch nemesis. What I'd like you to think about is whether or not you're ready to choose an arch nemesis. An arch nemesis. To let that be a motivational decision, to propel you to try to keep working on something when you feel discouraged, to use an aspect of competition which is healthy. I'm very often reminded of my good friend Peter Thiel's admonition that competition is for losers. The idea that when you spend your time focusing on someone else rather than focusing on a very difficult problem, you often get distracted from what's really important and you find yourself in this kind of mimetic rivalry. I think that choosing an arch nemesis is a slight exception to this generally pretty good rule. When I get discouraged and I don't feel like looking at physics, it does help me to think about the fact that somewhere out there, Garrett is pitching a wave in the waters off of Maui, thinking about physics and trying to push his theory forward. So I find that not dispiriting or enervating, but I actually find it energizing. I think you need to be able to see some of yourself in your arch nemesis. Some of yourself in your arch nemesis. I think you need to be able to see some of yourself in your arch nemesis. I think you need to be able to see some of yourself in your arch nemesis. That an arch nemesis isn't something that you have to wait for. When you find somebody with whom you're competitive, where you have a lot of respect for that person, and you want that person to motivate you over a lifetime, and you feel ready to make this decision, remember you should only choose one, and it should be a long-term relationship. You should be in dialogue with that arch nemesis over time, and it should be energizing to you both. Just want to say, first of all, thank you very much. Without further ado, I suppose the time has come. Be well.
So this is a view of the world as a system of mutual exploitation and of maximal selfishness. Now, it's a very profitable view to explore. Everybody should do in their lifetime sometime two things. One is to consider death, to observe skulls and skeletons, consider death, and to wonder what it will be like to go to sleep and never wake up. Never. That is a very gloomy thing for contemplation, but it's like manure. Just as manure fertilizes the plants and so on. So the contemplation of death and the acceptance of death is very highly generative of creative life. You get wonderful things out of that. And the other thing to contemplate is to follow the possibility of the idea that you are totally selfish. That you don't have a good thing to be said for you at all. You are a complete, utter rascal. You are a complete, utter rascal. Now, the Christians have avoided this. Because although they say in their Episcopalian form of confession that we have erred and strayed from thy ways like lost sheep, and we have followed too much the devices and desires of our own hearts, too much. We have offended against thy holy laws. We have left undone those things we ought to have done, and done those things which we ought not to have done. And there is no health in us. But it ought to be different. And we're going to do our best to amend with the help of God's grace. That is a real con act. If you equate health with genuine love and perfect unselfishness, then in that sense there is no health in us when we look at ourselves from this point of view. Consider death. To observe skulls and skeletons. Consider death, and to wonder what it will be like to go to sleep and never wake up. Never. Consider death, to observe skulls and skeletons. Consider death, and to wonder what it will be like to go to sleep and never wake up.
I remember thinking about this story. It's got to be 30 years ago. I think the meaning of the story stood out for me. When you read complicated material, sometimes a piece of it will stand out. It's like it glitters. That might be one way of thinking about it. You're in sync with it and you can understand what it means. And I think I understood what this part of the story of Noah meant. What nakedness meant in the story of Adam and Eve. To know yourself naked is to become aware of your vulnerability, your physical boundaries in time and space, and your fundamental physiological insufficiencies as they might be judged by others. There's biological insufficiency that's sort of built into you because you're a fragile, mortal, vulnerable, half-insane creature. That's just an existential truth. And so to become aware of your nakedness is to become self-conscious. That's what is revealed to Ham when he comes across his father naked. And so the question is, what does it mean to see your father naked? And especially in an inappropriate manner like this, it's as if Ham, he's insufficiently respectful of his father. And the question is exactly, what does the father represent? And you can say, well, there's the father that you have, and that's a human being, that's a man like other men. But then there's the father as such, and that's the spirit of the father. And insofar as you have a father, you have both at the same time. You have the personal father that's a man among other men, just like anyone else's father. But insofar as that man is your father, that means that he's something different than just another person. And what he is the incarnation of the spirit of the Father. And to see that, to disrespect that carelessly. Noah makes a mistake, right? He produces wine and gets himself drunk. And you might say, well, if he's sprawled out there for everyone to see, it's hardly Ham's fault if he stumbles across him. But the book is laying out a danger. The danger is that maybe you catch your father at his most vulnerable moment, and if you're disrespectful, then you transgress against the spirit of the Father. And if you transgress against the spirit of the Father and lose respect for the spirit of the Father, then that is likely to transform you. Don't want utopian comfort and certainty. They want adventure and chaos and uncertainty. Human beings don't want utopian comfort and certainty. They want adventure and chaos and uncertainty. Satan, in Milton's Paradise Lost, Satan decides that he can do without the transcendent. Without God. He can do without God. He can do without God. And that's why he foments rebellion. It's something like that. Then the consequence of that was that as soon as Satan decided that what he knew was sufficient and that he could do without the transcendent, which you might think about as the domain outside of what you know, something like that, immediately he was in hell. Things get large, and then they get too large, and then they collapse. And so, in 2008, when the politicians said, too big to fail, they got something truly backwards. The statement was reversed. It should have been so big it had to fail. Human beings don't want utopian comfort and certainty. They want adventure and chaos and uncertainty. Human beings don't want utopian comfort and certainty. They want adventure and chaos and uncertainty. When I read Paradise Lost, I was studying totalitarianism, and I thought, you know, the poet, the true poet, like a prophet, is someone who has intimations of the future. has intimations of the future. And maybe that's because the poetic mind, the philosophical or prophetic mind, is a pattern detector. And there are people who can detect the underlying, it's like the melody of a nation. Melody as in song. The song of a nation. And can see how it's going to develop across the centuries. You see that in Nietzsche, because Nietzsche, for example, in around 1860 or so, I mean, he prophesied what was going to happen in the 20th century. He said specifically that the specter of communism would kill millions of people in the 20th century. It's an amazing prophecy. Some people are very good at detecting patterns, you know, and Milton, I think, was of that sort. I think he had intimations of what was coming as human rationality became more and more powerful and technology became more and more powerful. Human beings don't want utopian comfort and certainty. They want adventure and chaos and uncertainty. Human beings don't want utopian comfort and certainty. They want adventure and chaos and uncertainty. And then Milton's warning was the rational mind that generates a production and then worships it as if it's absolute immediately occupies hell. And that's what I think the story of the Tower of Babel is about. It's a warning against the expansion of a system until it encompasses everything. It's a warning against totalitarian presumption. And so there's a utopian kind of vision there as well, as we can build a structure that's so large and encompassing that it can replace heaven itself. And so that the very notion of a utopia was anti-human, because we're not built for static utopia. We're built for a dynamic situation where there's demands placed on us and where there's the optimal amount of uncertainty. Human beings don't want utopian comfort and certainty. They want adventure and chaos and uncertainty. Human beings don't want utopian comfort and certainty. They want adventure and chaos and uncertainty. Human beings don't want utopian comfort and certainty. They want adventure and chaos and uncertainty. Human beings don't want utopian comfort and certainty. They want adventure and chaos and uncertainty.
What would be the forms of culture that we would say to be necessary or most inclined to foster in the individual that glowing of the flame?
I think the most accessible form for most people is music. And music, to me, is the most representational form of art, because I think that the world is made out of patterns. And we perceive some patterns as objects, but fundamentally it's patterns. And what you want is all the patterns of the world to interact harmoniously in something where every element is related intelligibly to every other element. And I think that when your life is in harmony, then you can feel that. When you're dancing to beautiful music, you're acting that out. The music is the music of the spheres, and you're participating in the patterning of your being in accordance with that structure, and that gives you an intimation of transcendence. Music is everything. Music is everything. It's not criticizable. That's the thing that's so lovely about it, is even as our society has become more cynical and more self-destructive and more deconstructionist, the power of music has in fact grown. Because it speaks to that eternal harmony. And the reality of that eternal harmony in a way that mere intellect cannot deny. And I mean, I was always amused. I went to this show, the Ramones, a punk band from New York. It was the loudest concert I'd ever heard by a good factor of 10. My ears rang for like 3 days afterwards. And there were all these like nihilistic punk rockers all crammed into this theater. And below me, there was a mosh pit. It was like ants on a frying pan. And they were just smashing into each other and throwing people around up above them. And it was quite rough. And they were all having this beautifully transcendent musical experience which belied all of their nihilism. And they absolutely thrived on it. It was like, and even the lyrics were harsh and nihilistic, but it didn't matter because the music in its rough form was something that united them in the sense of this like patterned beauty and brought them together. And so exposure to music, people die without music. It's like, music is everything. Music is everything. Music is everything. Music is everything.
You talk sometimes about weak men. Why are weak men such a problem?
Well, weak people are a problem in general. And I don't mean physically weak. I mean cowardly and deceitful. I'm thinking it more in terms of moral weakness. There's a variety of reasons. First of all, if you can't support your own weight, let's say, then someone else has to do it. And that's not good. If you don't pick a forthright and useful and noble pathway through life, then you'll become bitter and too hurt by the tragedy of existence, and then you tend to seek your revenge wherever you can get it. And that's not good. So it's a mistake on all fronts. It's not good for you, it's not good for your family, it's not good for the community. It's certainly not a good medium to long-term strategy because life is very, very difficult and you have to be prepared for that. That's strength. And necessary. That's strength. And necessary.
Our science team has been working tirelessly to design this new miracle of engineering, the light trap.
I had a watcher the other night at my lecture in Oslo, and he wrote me a letter. He was a 17-year-old boy. His father had died suddenly about 6 months before, and he found his dad when he was dying and was very, very shocked and horrified and hurt by what had happened. And I had recommended on my YouTube lectures that one thing you could aim for was to be the strongest person at your father's funeral. And so that's what he did. And he helped his mom, and he wrote a 200-word eulogy and got through it. And so, good for him. That's strength. That's strength. And necessary. I believe that people are stronger than their misfortunes. That's strength. And necessary. I believe that people are stronger than their misfortunes. One of the things that's so sad about what I'm doing, I'm going all around the world and I'm talking to many, many people. I've talked to about 250,000 people in the last 6 months, and I offer encouraging words, that I believe that people are stronger than their misfortunes. I believe that if you turn around and confront the vulnerability that's part and parcel of life, you'll find within yourself a strength that will transcend that. I believe that not only to be true, but supported by the best clinical evidence. It's important for lost young people, male and female alike, to develop a vision and take on some responsibility and understand that they have a vital role to play in the world. The lack of their best hurts everything. And the sad thing is that there's very many people who have not heard an encouraging word in their life. It takes so little to encourage them that it's rather tragic. That's strength. And necessary. I believe that people are stronger than their misfortunes. That's strength. And necessary. I believe that if you turn around and confront the vulnerability that's part and parcel of life, you'll find within yourself a strength that will transcend that. I have people come up to me, many people every day in the lectures and on the street, who tell me I was in a bad place, I was struggling, I've been watching your lectures, I've been reading your book, I've put my life together, I'm trying to be responsible, tell the truth, things are way better. Thank you. Can't get any better than that. So, and that's...
Sector scanned.
Can I... That.
Hard work and persistence, self-reliance always, strength, perseverance, self-control.
decisions once he'd reached them. Indifference is superficial honors. Listening to anyone who could contribute to the public good. His dogged determination to treat people as they deserved. A sense of when to push and when to back off. His altruism. Not expecting his friends to keep him entertained at dinner or to travel with him. And anyone who had to stay behind to take care of something always found him the same when he returned. His searching questions at meetings, a kind of single-mindedness, almost, never content with first impressions or breaking up the discussion prematurely. His constancy to friends, never getting fed up with them or playing favorites. And his advanced planning, well in advance. And his discreet attention to even minor things, his restrictions on acclamations. And all attempts to flatter him, his constant devotion to the empire's need, his stewardship at the treasury, willingness to take responsibility and blame for both. His attitude to the gods, no superstitiousness. His attitude to men, no demagoguery, no currying favor, no pandering. Always sober, always steady, never vulgar or a prey to fads. No currying favor, no pandering. Always sober, always steady, never vulgar or a prey to fads.
Hard work and persistence, self-reliance always, strength, perseverance, self-control. Hard work and persistence, self-reliance always, cheerful, strength, perseverance.
The material comforts that fortune had supplied him in such abundance, without arrogance and without apology. If they were there, he took advantage. If not, he didn't miss them. No one ever called him glib or shameless or pedantic. They saw him for what he was, a man tested by life, accomplished, unswayed by flattery, qualified to govern, both himself and them. Both himself and them. His respect for people who practiced philosophy, at least for those sincere about it, but without denigrating the others or listening to them. His ability to feel at ease with people and to put them at their ease without being pushy. His willingness to take adequate care of himself. Not a hypochondriac obsessed with his appearance, but not ignoring things either. With the result that he hardly ever needed medical attention or drugs or any sort of salve or ointment. This in particular. His willingness to yield the floor to experts in oratory, law, psychology, whatever, and to support them energetically, so each could fulfill his potential. He respected tradition without need to constantly congratulate himself for safeguarding traditional values. Not prone to go off on tangents or pulled in all directions, but sticking with the same old places and the same old things. The way he could have one of his migraines, then go right back to what he was doing. Fresh and at the top of his game, that he had so few secrets, only state secrets, in fact, and not all that many of those. The way he kept public actions within reasonable bounds, games, building projects, because he looked to what needed doing and not the credit to be gained from doing it. No bathing at strange hours, no self-indulgent building projects, no concern for food or the cut and color of his clothes, or having attractive slaves. He never exhibited rudeness, lost control of himself, turned violent. No one saw him sweat. Everything was to be approached logically and with due consideration, in a calm and orderly fashion, but decisively, with no loose ends. You could have said of him that he knew how to enjoy and abstain from things that most find hard to abstain from and all too easy to enjoy. But to be strong enough both to bear the one and be sober in the other is the mark of a man with a perfect and invincible soul. Hey. But to be strong enough both to bear the one and be sober in the other is the mark of a man with a perfect and invincible soul.
Hard work and persistence, self-reliance always, strength, perseverance, self-control. Hard work and persistence, self-reliance always, cheerful, strength, perseverance, self-control.
become like this big ass speaker, what do people come up to you and ask you the most?
How do I do it? How am I able to do what I do on a daily basis? You know, how do I fight the demons? Because they hear me speak and I'm very raw and real. How do you fight my insecurities? All these things. They're there every day. They're every day. I'm in search for a feeling. I'm not in search for a trophy. I'm not in search for love. I'm not in search for more followers on social media. When I started this journey years ago, I realized that I'm going to be somebody, and I'm searching for a feeling. I'm searching for a feeling. Searching for a feeling. I'm searching for a feeling. Searching for a feeling. A feeling of true victory for myself. And only myself. The second I shut out the whole world and realized that one thing, that I am in this world alone. I'm fighting in this race by myself. Yeah, I'm all about people, I'm all about team, I'm all about that shit. But I'm really all about right now and in my life, no one knows the real truth about me, how hard I really go. I don't care if anybody knows. I don't want anybody to know. I'm an introvert. I live an introverted life. And I love that about me. That right there is my fuel. I know that there's really no one out there grinding like me. And if they are, so be it. If I know about you, I'll make sure that I up my game. I'm searching for a feeling. Searching for a feeling. I'm searching for a feeling. Searching for a feeling. That's what the mentality is all about. My whole thing is a mentality thing. I view myself as the weakest person on the planet Earth. My goal in life was to, in my mind, believe I'm the hardest man alive. Can't hurt me? That's what it's about. It's about whatever you think you are, you have to make that dream a reality. That's where the hard part is. How do you keep grinding every day? You have to make those insecurities, those fears. Like when I was 300 pounds, I didn't have any drive. I'm gonna go be a Navy SEAL. What kind of stupid shit is that, 300 pounds? It wasn't like a drive to go be a Navy SEAL. I was an insecure, lying kid, afraid. I had to look at my insecurities and in my fear and find drive in that. We're all looking for passion. Passion's all around you. You have a whole fucking stack of it all around you. It's your insecurities, all that shit. You gotta dive deep in that shit. It's all in there. All the energy and fuel you need is right in yourself. It's all there. You got a lot of stuff to do to overcome. And that's where I found it. I found it right there in my own insecurities. I found drive in my own insecurities. That's the most powerful thing in the world. When you can find drive in your own doubt, fear, insecurities, you become very unstoppable. I'm searching for a feeling. searching for a feeling. I'm searching for a feeling. Searching for a feeling.
Next stage in the mystery of the human development is that of old age. Coming up. Just about when you learn how to do what they've been trying to teach you, and you begin to fumble. Then you have to put stuff together, and for another few years, act as though you still could do it. And then everybody else begins to see he's not doing so well. They put another waiter in to take over the job for you and that kind of thing. You're gradually eased out. You're gradually eased out. The first half of life, when there's a knock on the door, you think, here it comes. Here it comes. And the last half of life, when there's a knock on the door, you think, here it comes. Here it comes. In other words, the first function of the local social mythology was to bring you from childhood dependency to responsibility in terms of the social demand. And then just about when you're beginning to feel good about it all, the society that has said you've got to do what we want begins to say, well, it looks as though you can't do what we want, so you're on your own. Then you have what's called a nervous breakdown. The first half of life, when there's a knock on the door, you think, here it comes. Here it comes. And the last half of life, when there's a knock on the door, you think, here it comes. Here it comes. The next problem then, in a mythological order that is going to take care of us, is to tell us what to do with our psyches when that begins to happen. The economic problem isn't the main one. Not that somebody should, give you a fishing rod and send you out fishing and then have dinner for you and come home. It's what are you going to do with that power inside you? What are you going to do with that power inside you? What are you going to do with that power inside you? What are you going to do with that power inside you? What are you going to do with that power inside? The first half of life, when there's a knock on the door, you think, here it comes. Here it comes. And the last half of life, when there's a knock on the door, you think, here it comes. Here it comes. You've become somewhat aware of the world, of the mystery of the world, and you just don't want to go doodling along with silly little children casts, and that's not what you're worth. It's not what you're ready for. There are problems to face. The most challenging one is death. Man is the only animal that knows he's going to die. And as soon as you fumble that ball, it's coming. It's coming. The first half of life, when there's a knock on the door, you think, here it comes. And the last half of life, when there's a knock on the door, you think, here it comes. Here it comes. So we find this wonderful problem, and clergy in general, the religious, have served it. They have provided images, tasks, discipline that carry the child from childhood dependency to responsibility. Rather simple responsibilities, those the society says you've got to accept. And then they've provided a way out. They tell you that daddy will be up there and you're going back home. Now this isn't quite enough anymore either. Is it any wonder that our clergymen look a little bit anxious these days?
Akira. He's got clout.
Even those that are supposedly born and never lose touch with the knowledge of their true nature, they are not much help to humanity because they don't know how to meet anybody where they are. In order to be of help to humanity, you have to take the pathways yourself. You have to take the pathways yourself that you are then going to suggest to others. And there was a beautiful comment Darfrey John made. He said a beautiful thing.
New colonists have arrived. Colonists are departing.
He said, I had to become like you so that you could become like me. I had to become like you so that you could become like me. He claimed to have been born without forgetting his true nature. But he realized that he was of no use to humanity in that condition. So he consciously forgot his own nature so as to have to find pathways for himself back home in order to then make those pathways available to other people. And hence he said, I had to become like you in order for you to become like me. I had to become like you in order for you to become like me. I can't comment on his experience, but it's a beautiful idea. Even if
A colonist has died.
Finding out what you're doing wrong is not a pleasant experience, and it means that you have to sacrifice part of yourself. Usually a burned out, stupid, bitter, corrupt, arrogant, nasty, vengeful part of yourself, but nonetheless part that you like. I think that room for those incremental improvements exists within everyone's grasp. And I think that it's a humble thing to do, to ask how you could improve incrementally without interfering with anyone else, like it's your problem, not theirs. But I think that the consequences of maintained incremental improvement are anything but incremental. You get compound interest on incremental improvement. There's another rule in the New Testament called the Matthew Principle. Economists use it, and the rule is, to those who have everything, more will be given, and from those who have nothing, everything will be taken. To those who have everything, more will be given, and from those who have nothing, everything will be taken. It's actually a description of the way the world works. You know that if you've ever played Monopoly. To those who have everything, more will be given, and from those who have nothing, everything will be taken. And there's a reason for that, that's a deep reason. And it's a very harsh rule, because it means as you start to wander off the path, the probability that you will wander further off the path increases non-linearly. And that's a terrible thing to know. As you wander towards the edge, the probability that you'll fall off the cliff increases. And that's statistical justification for the concept of hell. But as you improve, the probability that each improvement will produce a further improvement increases. And so perhaps the downside is the cataclysmic catastrophe that you can engage upon if you reproduce your moral failings. But the upside is that each improvement produces an increment in the probability of the next improvement. To those who have everything, more will be given, and from those who have nothing, everything will be taken. To those who have everything, more will be given, and from those who have nothing, everything will be taken. It's actually a description of the way the world works. You know that if you've ever played Monopoly. To those who have everything, more will be given, and from those who have nothing, everything will be taken. If you're a behavioral psychologist, and I am a behavioral psychologist, what you do is you help a person establish their aim, then you break down what they're trying to do into attainable units. The general consequence of that is that every time they manage an accomplishment, they get a little stronger in character, they get a little bit more confident in their ability, they get a little bit less racked with self-disgust, they get a little bit more hopeful about the future, and they get more confident that they can make another change. And if you're patient, and you have to be patient with yourself that way, it's like you reward those incremental improvements and you don't get all cynical about them, and you think, okay, just imagine what would happen if you kept doing that every week for 10 years. And the answer to that is, things would be so much better for you that you can't even imagine it. With that much improvement. Or maybe even with half that much improvement. To those who have everything, more will be given. And from those who have nothing, everything will be taken. To those who have everything, more will be given. And from those who have nothing, everything will be taken. It's actually a description of the way the world works. You know that if you've ever played Monopoly. To those who have everything, more will be given. And from those who have nothing, everything will be taken. so that's a very good way of progressing.
If you want to make money, you have to get paid at scale. Why you? That's accountability. At scale, that's leverage. You getting paid as opposed to somebody else getting paid, that's specific knowledge. That's specific knowledge. Feels like play to me. Specific knowledge. But it looks like work to others. Specific knowledge. Feels like play to me. Specific knowledge. But it looks like work to others. We have this idea that everything can be taught. Everything can be taught in school. And it's not true that everything can be taught. In fact, the most interesting things cannot be taught. But everything can be learned. But everything can be learned. Very often that learning either comes from some innate characteristics in your DNA, or it could be through your childhood where you learn soft skills, which are very, very hard to teach later on in life, or it's something that is brand new, so nobody else knows how to do it either, or it's true on-the-job training because you're pattern matching into a highly complex environment. Specific knowledge is the knowledge that you care about, especially if you're later in life. Let's say you're post 20, 21, 22. You almost don't get to choose which specific knowledge you have. Rather, you get to look at what you have already built by that point in time, and then you can build on top of it. The first thing to notice about specific knowledge is that you can't be trained for it. If you can be trained for it, if you can go to a class and learn specific knowledge, then somebody else can be trained for it too. And then we can mass produce and mass train people. Heck, we can even program computers to do it. And eventually we can program robots to walk around doing it. So if that's the case, then you're extremely replaceable, and all we have to pay you is the minimum wage that we have to pay you to get you to do it, when there are lots of other takers who can be trained to do it. That's specific knowledge. Feels like play to me. Specific knowledge. But it looks like work to others. Specific knowledge. Feels like play to me. Specific knowledge. But it looks like work to others. Specific knowledge is found much more by pursuing your innate talents, your genuine curiosity, and your passion. Very often, specific knowledge is at the edge of knowledge. It's also stuff that's just being figured out or is really hard to figure out. So if you're not 100% into it, somebody else who is 100% into it will outperform you. And they won't just outperform you by a little bit, they'll outperform you by a lot. Because now we're operating the domain of ideas, compound interest really applies and leverage really applies. If you're operating with 1,000 times leverage and somebody is right 80% of the time and somebody else is right 90% of the time, the person who's right 90% of the time will literally get paid hundreds of times more by the market. So very often, it's not something you sit down and you reason about. It's more found by observation. You almost have to look back on your own life and see what you're actually good at. I wanted to be a scientist. the first person to actually point out my real specific knowledge was my mother. I was like 15 or 16 years old. I was telling a friend of mine that I wanted to be an astrophysicist, and she said, "No, you're going to go into business." And I was like, "What? My mom's telling me I'm going to be in business? I'm going to be an astrophysicist. Mom doesn't know what she's talking about." But Mom knew exactly what she was talking about. She had already observed. We walked down the street. I would critique the local pizza parlor on why they were selling their slices a certain way with certain toppings and why their process of ordering was this way when it should have been that way. So she knew that I had more of a business curious mind, but then my obsession with science combined to create technology and technology businesses where I found myself. That specific knowledge feels like play to me. Specific knowledge, but it looks like work to others. That specific knowledge feels like play to me. Specific knowledge, but it looks like work to others. Often, your specific knowledge is observed and often observed by other people who know you well and revealed in situations rather than something that you come up with.
Entitled to anything. An incredible thing happens when you're born with very little. You know, I was born in the Soviet Union, we come to America, I live in a studio apartment in Queens. My parents bought me 6 toys in my entire life kind of thing. We took 1 family vacation in my entire life. When I wanted Nintendo, my mom looked me dead in the face and said, "Good, go buy it." On the flip side, she reinforced things that came natural to me and made them the most important things. While I was getting D's and F's, and every other immigrant parent was making their kids get A's and B's because they thought that's what mattered, my mom was accelerating anytime that I showed compassion, anytime that I showed empathy, anytime that I showed gratitude. You're either on the offense or defense. You're either on the offense or defense. People think they're in the middle, in a transit. You're only on the offense or the defense. I once opened a door, and I will remember this for the rest of my life. I was 8. I opened a door for a woman. You would have thought that I won a Nobel Peace Prize. My mom made such a big deal about that. You have to understand what she did, and no matter how bad you have it, millions, billions have it worse. And so for me, the mindset that I've rolled in this whole game is nobody cares. Nobody cares. And not that they don't care, people have compassion, but they care even for the people you love the most. It's just a human thing. And normally, we have it ridiculously good. You're either on the offense or defense. You're either on the offense or defense. I think a lot of people think they're in the middle. In a transit. You're only on the offense or the defense. This internet thing is the most important invention in the history of the human being. All the things that you worry about of like the man stopping you or something stopping you, all these things that we envision that are the reasons why you haven't been successful, this internet thing is taking away. The internet is the middleman. It's true. You have to understand how ridiculous this thing is. The ability for you to create content, videos, and written word direct to the audience eliminates any excuse you come up with. I can literally spend the next month, one by one, systematically going through this big room, and no matter what excuse you come up with, the answer is going to be, and we have to eliminate complaining and dwelling. We have to. And that's what she did for me. She instilled the right positive things, and most of all, she eliminated fucking excuses. She eliminated entitlement. She eliminated fucking excuses. She eliminated entitlement. You're either on the offense or defense. You're either on the offense or defense. I think a lot of people think they're in the middle. In a transit. You're only on the offense or the defense. You're either on the offense or defense. You're either on the offense or defense. I think a lot of people think they're in the middle. In a transit. You're only on the offense or the defense.
All of the high cultures and low cultures and primitive cultures and charming, simple cultures, great, big, enormous ones, have grown out of myths. They are founded on myths. And what these myths have given has been inspiration for aspiration. Now, where do these aspirations come from? They come from a very wonderful, childlike thing, fascination. You know, if you wanted to make money today, I'm no economist, but I'll bet the thing to do would be to invest your money in something like cameras. Things that people play with, things that they're fascinated by. These fascinations are the creations of new activities. And when we look at the old cultures, we can see all cultures have grown out of myth. All cultures, they are founded on myth. And what these myths have given has been inspiration for aspiration. And some of it is very strange to see indeed. What is most fascinating to begin with is one's neighbor, particularly if the neighbor is a very strange-looking creature. Now think of man in the old days. He was a minority on the planet. And when he looked at his neighbors, they had 4 feet, they had horns, they had great woolly bodies. They were very his neighbor. And we know that the first religious rites and the first religious address, so to say, was to animals, their neighbors. These were the images of God.
A colonist has
All
died.
cultures have grown out of myth. All cultures, they are founded on myth. And what these myths have given has been inspiration or aspiration. The animal world was the first inspiration, and the divinities were animal divinities. And not only that, but just as kids, when they identify with something, when they are fascinated by something, they act like it, they play it. So, the original rituals, the hunting people danced buffalo dance. They were in covenant with the animal world. That through this covenant, the animals gave their bodies willingly to be eaten. Because only the body dies, the being comes back. If you return the blood of the animal to the earth, the life is in the blood. The earth is the mother of life, and the animal will be back next year. All cultures have grown out of myth. All cultures, they are founded on myth. And what these myths have given has been inspiration or aspiration. People who lived then in the plant world, the world of the tropics, where nature was a plant world, they saw something else. They saw that out of rot, out of decay, there comes life. There comes life. And this notion that out of death comes life becomes a very important thing in the tropical cultures. And it led to what is a very powerful pattern of rituals. Rituals of human sacrifice, killing people, letting them rot, burying them with the notion that out of this death there would come life. All cultures have grown out of myth. All cultures, they are founded on myth. And what these myths have given has been inspiration or aspiration. All cultures have grown out of myth. All cultures, they are founded on myth. And what these myths have given has been inspiration or aspiration. Aspiration.
For me, superheroes will always spark the imagination of people around the world. 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 Regardless of their background.
A colonist has died.
Because I think that people are always looking for something that represents the ideal person or the ideal situation. You know, almost all of us have loved fairy tales when we were young. Just remember stories of giants and witches and wizards and monsters and things that were so colorful and bigger than life. Bigger than life. But then you get a little older and you're too old to read fairy tales stories today are really like fairy tales for grown-ups. The characters are bigger than life, just like in fairy tales. They have the same type of superpowers. Some can fly, some are extra strong, some can be invisible. It gives the viewer and the reader a chance to relive the excitement he or she had when they were young. When they were young. They're really reading fairy tales for grown-ups when they read or when they see superhero stories today. And that's why I love them so. And that's why I love them so. You get a little older and you're too old to read fairy tales, but you never outgrow your love of that type of story. Story. But you never outgrow your love of that type of story. That type of story. But you never outgrow your love of that type of story.
Akira.
He's got clout.
Love my family. Love my family. Love my family. Love my family. To love my family. Love my family. Love my family. Love my family. To love my family. Truth and justice. 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 To love my family. Truth and justice. Love my family. Truth and justice. Love my family. Truth and justice. Love my family.
My brother Severus, it was through him I encountered Thracia, Helvidius, Cato, Dion, Brutus, and conceived of a society of equal laws governed by equality of status and of speech, and of rulers who respect the liberty of their subjects above all else, and from him as well to be steady and consistent in valuing philosophy, and to help others, and be eager to share, not be a pessimist, never to doubt your friend's affection for you. And when people incurred his disapproval, they always knew it. They always knew it. And that his friends never had to speculate about his attitude to anything. It was always clear.
Love my family, truth and justice. 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 Love my family. To help others and be good to share. To help others and be good to share. To help others and be good to share. To help others and be.
Maximus, self-control and resistance to distractions, optimism in adversity, especially illness, a personality in balance, dignity and grace together, doing your job without whining. other people's certainty that what he said was what he thought, and what he did was done without malice.
A colonist
Never
has
taken
died.
back or apprehensive, neither rash nor hesitant, or bewildered, or at a loss. Not obsequious, but not aggressive or paranoid either. Generosity, charity, honesty, the sense he gave of staying on the path, not being kept on it. That no one could have ever felt patronized by him, or in a position to patronize him. A sense of humor. Love my family, truth and justice. 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 Love my family, others and be good to share, to help others and be good to share, to help others and be good to share, to help others and be